So as a beginner surfer, you're going to want a board which is going to be quite tall, quite wide, and really thick. You're probably going to want it to be a little bit soft, and one of those beginner boards you might get from a major retailer. Here at Hayden Cox, we more focus on performance boards for intermediate to advanced surfers. So for an intermediate surfer, we'll probably have a board like the Hypno Crypto here. And as an intermediate surfer, if you're about my size, you're going to want something like this board. This board here is 6'8" by 22 inches wide and 3 1/4 inches thick. And you can see it's quite big, it's quite tall. My arm comes up to the nose. And as a board in terms of body size, it's going to be quite wide and then also quite thick. So with the thickness, you're going to get plenty of volume in the board, especially up around the chest, and it's going to be quite a thick rail. So this is a great board, easy board to get up on. It's got quite stable, and you generally get a little bit of performance out of this, when surfing and riding the wave, but it's going to give you a good blend of those two attributes. Even like seeing the board under my arm, like this board's massive. So like we have quite a big board under my arm, and when it's next to me, it's quite nice and tall, nice and big. And what we have here is, this isn't necessarily like a high performance board, but this board here is going to be like a step down from, the 6'8" down to, I'm pretty sure this is a 5'10", and it's going to be something that's, definitely a lot smaller. It's going to be more sensitive and more reactive when you're surfing it, and there's definitely a lot less thickness in the board, especially up around this area of the board. It's definitely a lot smaller, so when you put the board under your arm, it's feeling like a snug fit. We don't have as much volume. I can feel it, the volume and the feeling of the board underneath your arm. And generally, it's a smaller board that you can really kind of get a good feel for in the grip. Okay. So you can see there, definitely a lot smaller. So as you're progressing with your surfing, you're going from something which is more stable, a lot bigger than you as a person. You're going to step down to a board which is got less volume in it, it's more suited to your height and weight, and it's going to feel a lot more sensitive when you're riding that board. So this is a board here where it's it's something that I would ride. It's something my height, for my ability. It's definitely a little bit shorter than me. It's fitting to my chest, and under my arm, it feels like a nice performance board that I'd love to ride. So this particular design is the Psychedelic Germ, and this has that hull design up here. So we have the ridge of the board and the hull, which has a concave on that side and a concave on that side, and this allows the water to flow through the entry of the board. So before, the beginner, more intermediate board, completely covered my whole body when I stood behind it. This board here is definitely, a lot narrower. My body, it's going to feel a lot more sensitive when lying on the board, when jumping to your feet, and it's going to have a more performance ride to it, which for what I'm after is exactly what I want. We have definitely a lot less volume in the front end of the board, and that there will feel a lot tighter in your hand, and it's really going to have a little bit more connection to the wave. So when you really get onto the rail of your board, you're going to get, when you're going through those turns and those maneuvers, you get that sensitivity. This board here, as you can see, is also quite different. This board here, we have the wooden stringer down the center of the board, and this one here is our FutureFlex technology. And this one here has the carbon frame which goes around the outside. You can see it starts from the top side and it continues to the underside of the board. And it goes around like a tennis racket frame. So yeah, you're going to want to choose a board which is, going to have a style that suits you. As we showed you before, here's one which is more of our basic in-house design. It's got it like a 3/4 resin tint. It's got a nice kind of grey, natural feel to it. One of the last things you got to do is choose the aesthetic. And here's one of the Alexander Wang, project boards. This has got the marble print design, one of the 5 marble print designs on it. That if you're into that kind of stuff, it's going to be something that you're going to really love to either put on your wall or have underneath your feet when you're riding. So it really comes down to aesthetically what you're after, what kind of designs and patterns you like to incorporate. And yeah, there's always something for everyone.